button.
Hangouts on Air is going away later this year. For quick streaming, try youtube.com/webcam. Just so you all know, that's a thing that's happening. But we're live. I got to get this off my chest because, man, the culture war has ramped up something fierce, and I'm wondering what the catalyst was in June. I'm sure both of you guys know about the Steven Crowder bit where Carlos Maza went, fucking balls to the wall to get him kicked off of YouTube.
What a auspicious timing, by the way.
Yeah.
Dare say.
Yeah, well, not only because it's Pride Month, but also because apparently Vox was the labor union at Vox was in the 11th hour of negotiations and about to not get a deal.
They still don't have a deal, though, do they?
I think that I read somewhere that they do have a deal, and neither side seems real pleased by it. They're just happy that they came to an agreement, which is smart because Vox is bleeding money. I'm sure that they can't be doing well business-wise financially. They just have deep-pocketed backers in NBC and some of the, the mainstream medias. But
well, a third of their views are people going from the Crowder channel to shit on them anyway. So.
Which again, it doesn't matter if it's hate clicks. I mean, it's the Stern philosophy in action. It doesn't matter who's listening as long as you're listening. It doesn't matter your reasoning. You can listen because you hate him. You can listen because you love him. You're still listening, and he still gets to count you as a listener. So this is
the third of the audience wants to see what he says next. The other third of his audience hates him and wants to see what he says next.
Right. So, I mean, it's kind of the same thing for Vox. There's no such thing as bad press. You get more attention, you get more clicks, and you can go back to the advertisers and say, "See, we've got." I mean, they're BS numbers that are going to almost immediately taper off to probably lower than they started, but for the meantime, they get to claim them.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond that, and this is the interesting one. The Pinterest thing. Do you guys know about the Pinterest thing?
I stopped following Pinterest when they kicked Alex Jones off.
Well, I mean, of all things, to be politically active. I mean, I get it. Anything in Silicon Valley is going to be politically active. And this is going to go more to my main theory here a little bit
in
later.
one direction.
Right, in one direction.
Which is ridiculous because they're companies that. Do you really need to be active politically to run a successful company?
No, not really. Okay, so let me give you the premise of where I was trying to go with this whole thing.
Go ahead.
The companies themselves, we have a tendency to attack them as collectives and as big business units, rather than focus down on what's really going on. In that the people that work for these companies, the people that are stakeholders in these companies, like Carlos Maza is a stakeholder in YouTube. That's why he's going after YouTube to get them to do the actions that he wants undertaken for his political goals. These activists are individuals who are utilizing the organizational power of these institutions to affect outcomes. So instead of saying, I can't believe YouTube is doing this, I think we need to stop saying, can you believe that YouTube is doing X? It's not YouTube. It's a person. It's a human being with a name and a motive inside YouTube, inside Twitter, inside Pinterest. These are people inside these organizations with motives and directives of an individual nature that they're pushing out in a collective fashion through their organizations. So instead of blaming Pinterest, instead of blaming YouTube, instead of blaming Twitter, it's good that we blame Jack, but Jack obviously doesn't have, he's not hurting his cats. He's letting them do whatever they're going to do. And going after him specifically has proven unfruitful in getting any sort of systemic change to these organizational activities. So what we need to do is we need to find out who the people are that are pulling these triggers. Who put Tim Pool's video today in? Who censored it? Call them to the carpet. Them individually to the carpet. YouTube is hiding behind vague rules and vague guidelines. Oh, it's a privacy violation. Okay, whose privacy? Where was it violated? How do I remove it so that I can make this compliant? They won't tell you. They want you to take the whole thing down. And it's those individual. Go ahead.
I do have one question as far as context goes. What was the video about?
Which one?
Yeah, I don't know what this Tim Pool video you guys are talking about.
I haven't seen his original one. I know it's on BitChute, and I'm a bad doobie. I've actually finally bookmarked BitChute to start up with all my other stuff when it starts up, but I'm still getting myself trained to actually go to BitChute to watch videos. So I haven't quite got there yet, but the one on YouTube on his main channel explaining what happened to the video on his other channel is the only one I've seen thus far. But more importantly, go back a couple of days, go back to Tuesday, and Tuesday is when YouTube took down the Project Veritas video for supposedly the same reasons. Is that it was a privacy violation of somebody's privacy. Whose privacy, I don't know. And they've yet to say. So YouTube has taken down Project Veritas, they took down Black Pigeon Speaks, and they took down Tim Pool's video.
Black Pigeon Speaks is still up on my channel.
Well,
he got it back.
He was down for about 12 hours. His whole channel was down for 12 hours.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is his channel went down 4 hours after he posted a video that directly accused YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, the usual suspects, of this more aggressive, more obvious forms of censorship.
Yes.
So there's a cabal in YouTube of at least one person and probably more that are making these choices as individuals and using the company facilities to affect their outcome. And we need to know who these people are. They need to identify themselves when they do these things. There needs to be some sort of policy that says if your video gets deleted, you are entitled to reason, timestamps, an explanation, and who is making the decision. Because in America, we have the right to face our accusers.
Like quality control.
Right. Because if they're interested in actually protecting privacy, none of that information should be of concern to the person who you're trying to say, hey, this violates our policy and it's a privacy violation, and we want you to correct it so that we can best serve everybody. Here's what it is, here's where it is, here's who found it, here's why. If you don't have that information, you can't act on it. And what they should do is they should put the video in limited state, send the email to the producer, to the creator, and say, please fix this within 24 hours, let's say, or we will be forced to remove it wholly from our platform. That way you can at least still access it while it's in limited state, fix what you need to fix, or vice versa. Don't fix it or whatever you want to do with it, I guess. But at least at that point, the creator has the information of what was the offending problem, where is it in the video on a timestamp, who found it and who is calling this out, and why it's a violation of policy.
Also, there needs to be punishments for some of this bullshit where they're claiming stuff that isn't violated.
Well, that's the other thing they do too. There's they'll demonetize or put in limited state for the freshness duration of a video where it's going to get the most amount of views, when it's most pertinent and when it's most likely to get traffic, so that they don't have that's twofold. That's both censorious in the run part because they use it to that purpose to say, well, we don't want this viewpoint getting out in prime time, let's say. But other than that, they don't find anything wrong with the video. But the other thing that they can do is they go, oh, holy shit, this one's going viral. We really don't want to pay this creator this much money. We're going to demonetize it so that we don't have to pay them the share of the ad revenue that we're already getting because this video is already viral and those ads are already rolling.
Well, this is the problem that they created whenever they decided to take on ad revenue. And not only that, but distribute it amongst their creators. Which per se, but then you put yourself in this position where you have to appease your advertisers so you have monetary income. Otherwise, YouTube cannot sustain itself. It's an unsustainable platform unless it has a form of income, which there's only two ways to do it. You have advertisers or you have paid content. You have to have people pay to subscribe, and then you get whatever.
Well, that's the odd thing about what's going on in Silicon Valley, though. These people are losing money, hundreds of millions of dollars, and they don't give a fuck about it. Like, Google buys shit for billions of dollars and shuts it down. They buy things for hundreds of millions of dollars to either incorporate it or destroy it so that it's not out there anymore.
That's any big corporation. I mean, the oil companies are known to do that too. Any new feature or innovation in energy technology, they're going to go out and they're going to buy it, either to utilize it or to squash it.
Well, the utilizing it doesn't bother me at all, or put it into further training or R&D. But this isn't what they're doing. They're shutting it down.
Well, and then to go back to my previous statement, the reason that other companies such as, for instance, Netflix, Amazon Prime, Hulu, any of these streaming services that do shows and movies, the reason they are so successful and they make their own original content and it's successful is because they don't have advertisers. Everything they do is for the creator, not the creator, but the consumer.
And that's what I'm against, though.
No, that's what I like, because then that's when you get the most content, or at least the most fair content. It's not lopsided. You're not trying to appease two groups of people. If you focus on one, you do it well.
Yeah, but they're keeping Netflix is being kept by parents who no longer watch Netflix because of the bullshit that's being put out there. But Netflix Kids is being kept because it's got all the SpongeBobs or whatever.
Right, which I don't have a problem with. I'm fine with that. If that's what people want to watch and that's what gets them money, great. But YouTube catering to ad revenue or advertisers, it puts them in a tight spot, and you're going to lose money one way or another. And because all their income comes from ad revenue, they're not going to be able to. Well, aside from YouTube Red, but I don't know how much they actually make off of that. I can't imagine it's that much. But when you're going to cater to the advertisers, you're going to lose creators, because there's a lot of people like Matt, like Blonde, like Tim Pool, like Brittany Pettibone, like who's the guy from Project Veritas?
James O'Keefe.
James O'Keefe. Guys like this, journalists or people who comment on controversial issues, political issues, they're not going to want to support it.
They don't want to support that.
Exactly.
You're doing it wrong by commenting on these issues. Leave that to the people that we have already deemed qualified to do such things.
I call horseshit on that. I'll listen to who I want. Thank you very much.
No. You've got to get your opinion from Jimmy Kimmel and Steve Colbert.
Jimmy Kimmel. No. Wait. Jimmy Kimmel.
Let's talk about Jimmy Kimmel for a second. Let's talk about
Steve Colbert can suck my dick than Jimmy Kimmel. I really don't give a shit about Jimmy Kimmel, because he sucks my dick. He's gonna cry while he does.
Let's talk about CBS money for a minute here.
Well, why not? We're just talking about NBC money.
Yeah, is Jimmy Kimmel what is he on, ABC or CBS?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I think ABC.
Okay, so anyway, it doesn't matter. Alphabet Networks, including the actual Alphabet company themselves, are the problem in that they're funding these points of view well over and above the more mainstream conservative views. I mean, even a neutral view is no longer allowed. But Jimmy Kimmel is on record as of being on the Man Show, where their claim to fame was showing women jumping on girls, not women, girls
No.
jumping on trampolines.
Juggies, thank you.
Yeah.
Not just women.
And he also is famous for making a blackface character of Karl Malone. And in his defense, it's fucking hilarious. He does a very good job of poking fun at Karl Malone. But apparently, people's ethics and political point of view become malleable and exploitable for late night host cash levels. Because Jimmy Kimmel is making a ton of money to be this now woke paragon, preaching at mindless drones watching late night TV. Same with Stephen Colbert, who went from being really like on point with the Colbert Report, that was kind of satire, but kind of also 100% right in a right-wing point of view, neocon point of view, to now being basically a cock holster for George Soros. Nobody's got anything to say on that one? Please clap.
No, I agree with you, but at the same time, it's not anything we're unfamiliar with.
Right. So, I mean, at least with Stephen Colbert and with Jimmy Kimmel, they're the heads of their own shows. So you can call them out by name. Okay? They don't have 100% editorial clearance on their shows, but they have the bulk of it so that they can still be held accountable for what's thrown out on their own shows. What we don't have is the accountability of who pulled the Project Veritas video off of YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Who was that person? That person has a name. Who is that person? We need to know who that person is and why they're doing it.
I want him dead. I want his family dead. I want his dog dead.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things that I don't necessarily want to dox these people, but I just want a record of accountability so that we can start recognizing who's doing what where. And in the process of this, I mean, a good example of the other side doing the exact same thing to a worse extent is that video of Nancy Pelosi that was slowed down like 10%, where she seems a little bit drunk. Somebody from BuzzFeed went after, they took time and effort to research who they thought made this video.
No, they didn't. No, they went to Facebook, asked Facebook to give them the moderators for the channel it came on, researched the moderators, found a Trump supporter with a criminal record, and ended up blaming a black guy for it. Fucking manual labor black guy who had a conviction on his record is who they chose to lay at the feet of.
Yeah, they will literally sacrifice any individual.
It's a Trump supporter. He's got wrong thing.
Right. And it's time that if we're going to have this culture war, and we're gonna have this culture war because we can't not have it. It's not even a choice at this point. We need to be fighting fire with fire. We need to know who is doing this. Who are the editors at the Washington Post that are writing these articles, that are giving the go-ahead for these articles? Who are the authors of these articles? The author's a little bit easier to track down because usually it's on a byline. But we need to start naming names. Instead of saying the Washington Post put out an article that was critical of Trump and blah, 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 or the Washington Post put out an article that was pro-censorship. No, we need to start naming the authors' names, and we need to say, here's the editor who was in charge of giving the green light to that article.
But we just had that with Sarah Jones, and they didn't give a fuck about it, the New York Times.
Right, but the problem is that we had no follow through on that. It was literally, we went to the New York Times and said, hey, by the way, New York Times, Sarah Jong is doing X, Y, and Z. She's obviously a racist. She's obviously a gross human being, and you've just promoted her. New York Times went, yeah, and?
Which you're not buying our paper. Like,
right.
yeah, you would vote for Trump
exactly,
anyway.
well, no, I mean, that's exactly the sort of response that we are telling people. Hey, when you get called a racist because they want to manipulate you into accepting something, and you look at them and go, yeah, and now what? I mean, what does it change? It changes nothing. But we need to be 100% on the level and not hiding this bullshit, so that when they start going, hey, Tim Pool's a right-wing, zealot, blah, blah, blah. He's not.
Oh, man, that bothers me so bad. I don't like Tim Pool. But
the thing that gets me, okay, so I watched Daily Wire's Backstage yesterday or day before, one of the two, and they had Ruben on it, and they're all talking whatever that their normal stuff. They cover topics, this, that, and the other thing, and Tim Pool came up because Tim Pool was the one who was really pro Crowder in going after everything during the Crowder Vox adpocalypse issue last week. And they're like, oh, journalist Tim Pool. I'm like, can we call Tim Pool a journalist? I mean,
no, because he's credible.
Well, there's that, but I think that the thing is that from what I've seen Tim do over the last 2 weeks, well, the last 6 months, he's not actually out getting stories so much as he is repeating stories with commentary that are already out in the media. I mean, yeah, he's got a good, clear-headed angle on most of what's happening, and I appreciate his viewpoint. But is that actual journalism? Because he's not on the front lines like he used to be. He used to be out there with the guy from RA at Berkeley. When everybody was out of Berkeley, he was out there with Andy No and the guy from Russia Times.
Russia,
the blonde guy. Yeah, you're roboting out there, Raggle. You need to get into a better coverage area.
Yeah, just keep talking. It'll eventually work out, buddy. Can we censor this fucking guy?
I could mute him, but then we wouldn't know when it's fixed.
You want to try again? I can say sorry, Mr. Robot, and in Japanese if you need. I'm not a big fan of Tim Pool. He took the Alex Jones money and went to Sweden to investigate rape crimes. And
he actually addressed that on one of his recent streams.
Did he address bringing his girlfriend with him?
Not as so much as a thing, but he did acknowledge that he took his girlfriend with him.
Like, dude, like, what did you bring? Bait?
Yes. Yes. I mean, make no mistake about that. Yes, that was actually bait. The story gets so much better if something bad happens to you. I mean, that's why he was at Berkeley, because the story gets better when something bad happens to you.
Not a fan.
Well, I mean, I'm better than before, but still not good.
Okay.
Well, just pretty much par for your course.
Whatever.
Yeah, not even
quality.
Not even functional.
This is why I schedule them in advance.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was I had this hair up my ass. I have this idea that I want to get across that we're talking about.
You seem pretty pissed.
Yeah, but I don't know that I have enough in me to actually sit down and pull all the videos and do like a Matt Christensen level video on it. So I wanted to do at least a live stream and get it out there. But I think it's time to start naming names. I mean, over in the UK, you guys saw what happened there, right?
Milkshake and Nazis.
Well, yeah, milkshaking Nazis, but then they have that quote unquote comedian blob of a human being that.
Oh, what was that about acid jokes? Because those are
Okay, two
ultimately
things. Two things apparently. Apparently, before the acid quote unquote joke, she was on a TV show, hosting a TV show, I guess, and she went on like a 2-minute tirade against Sargon.
as one is wont to do.
Right. Well, she was just. I mean, it was an anti-UKIP. It must have been pre-election, so it must have been either right before or right after the election that they had, a couple of weeks ago. But she went off on UKIP and using Sargon as an example, but ended up misquoting him. They still think that the "I wouldn't even rape you" is a threat of rape. I mean, that's the level of misunderstanding that they have, a fundamental misunderstanding of what is being said.
It's not unintentional.
When it suits them to misinterpret, they absolutely will. And make no qualms about it. They'll make no apologies for it either. No, I agree with that. But okay, so after the anti-Sargon tirade, she then made the joke of, "I'd really like to throw milkshakes. Why are we throwing milkshakes on people when we could be throwing battery acid?" Which is exactly what everybody, when the milkshakes started happening, we're like, "Hey, how long before this turns into battery acid?" Because acid attacks are a thing that happens on the regular in London.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the BBC came out in defense of the joke, and they're all of a sudden very pro free speech when it comes to that, even though that is something that is actually likely to happen and have bad consequence. But some Scottish knob teaches his pug to salute a Hitler video, and it's a international issue that has to be sorted out in the courts. It's the level of hypocrisy and the unlevelness of the playing field is ridiculous. And that's what's pissing me off. It's what's pissing a lot of people off. It's pissing who's paying attention off. It's farcical, and I would laugh, but it's got ongoing and severe consequences if you just laugh it off. And the time to laugh it off is over. We need to start holding these individuals accountable. The individuals at these mainstream media companies, the individuals in Silicon Valley. We need to know who they are, and they need to be put on notice that we know who they are, what they're doing, and they're going to have to account to it and not hide in the anonymity of these
You want to try that word again?
organizations.
Anonymity.
Anonymity?
There you go.
What did I say before?
Anonymity.
Anonymity. Animus. Aminus. Anonymity. Is that the state of being angry? Anonymity? I don't know.
Anonymityville.
English are good. I are good speaker.
It's more than just that though, because they're not going to give up these people's names. It's just them protecting themselves at this point. But it's an atrocity what they're doing towards free speech. It's them hampering it without consequences because you blame Google and no one cares. It's this big company. It's this big faceless company. What could you possibly do about that?
Right. Whereas you can absolutely do something about the individual who's actually manipulating the switches behind the scene.
But they're never gonna be, it's not gonna get shut down by Karen. It is not gonna be labeled anywhere. Like the closest we got, like James the hell was the Project Veritas guy's name?
James O'Keefe.
O'Keefe. He has the video of talking with the Twitter people who were shutting down accounts and laughing about it. None of their names are out there, and half of them are completely unpronounceable anyway.
Well, and I have mixed feelings about James O'Keefe and Project Veritas. I like the idea of what Project Veritas does. I like the output that he puts out, but I'm a little off-put by the fact that he uses it for grandstanding and self-promotion.
Well, how else is he going to get promotion, though?
No, I understand.
Everyone else introduces him as James O'Keefe, the convict for doing something stupid in a congressperson's office.
Right. No, it's one of those things that it's like the price of entry. To get the outcome, you have to have a cost.
Yeah.
So
who's he banging for content is what I want to know.
Well, and you know what? So he's not doing the videos anymore because his face is recognizable. I mean, he'll do the post. Okay, we've got all this information. I am now going to go to the organization and say, "Hey, I'm James O'Keefe from Project Veritas, and we have information that that shows that you are censoring so and so in this fashion. Would you care to comment?" And they usually, shut it down. Not going to do it. Not going to talk to you. This, that, and that. It's like, okay, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go live with this, and to be fair, we're just letting you know that we're going live with what we found as investigative reporters. Blah. And our report is going to include all of this. You're the first to know. It's not going to be a surprise to you, but the people are going to know about it in 24 hours. That's what happened with this thing with Pinterest. And not only did it, I'm just going to stick to the Pinterest one because it's the one I know the most about. In the 12 hours from when he contacted them and said, here's what we're doing, this, that, and the other thing, the story is going live tomorrow at 8 a.m. or whatever. In that 12 hours, Pinterest covered up a bunch of shit, destroyed a bunch of information, and then ferreted out who was the guy that they figured out was the mole that was feeding Project Veritas the information, cut his shit off so that when he came in the next morning, he didn't have access to anything and he was walked out, I don't know, whenever they caught on that he was actually there. I'm okay with all of that. What I'm not okay with is that when Project Veritas shows their thing, there's like, we found X, Y, and Z, and here's this, here's the policy, and here's this. When they were doing it for, what was there was a guy who was threatening to bomb like the conservative ball or whatever in New York after Trump won. Remember that?
Yeah, I remember that.
Okay, so when they showed the videos that he got for all of that, every person that was in those videos was named and their job title was given throughout the whole thing. So we know who in the organization, we know what their position is in the organization, and who they are and what they're saying. I like that. What I don't like is when he's like, this middle manager at Pinterest or this middle manager at whatever company or whatever organization is on record as saying this. They don't name the names, they don't show the video, or they blur out the people. Truth is truth is truth, which is what Veritas means. Just lay it all out there.
I knew that. I've seen Boondock Saints.
Is that Boondock Saints?
Yeah, Aqueous, Veritas. There's the tattoos on their hands.
Oh, okay.
Have you seen Boondock Saints?
It's been a while.
Don't be like that.
Matt, thanks. No, not that bad. I've seen more than, actually, I have not seen Brokeback Mountain, so I'm one up on him that way.
That's down, actually.
Why? Should I have seen Brokeback Mountain?
No.
Okay, so I'm one up on him in that regard. in that regard.
But he's seen a movie you haven't.
A movie I haven't. I've seen all the others.
Like I got all whole sorts of terrible ones. I got 9.5 weeks under my belt. I've got Rent under my belt. Don't say I don't do gay shit, but I haven't seen Brokeback Mountain.
West Side Story.
Hey now. What the shit?
Oh,
So yeah, we need to change the paradigm and start calling these people out. What's interesting is that Tim has got this theory in the video that I just watched that the reason that these certain videos are being pulled down, the Project Veritas one, Black Pigeon Speaks, and his, is not that they're covering anything necessarily, or not that they're exposing anything, but that there's the call to action in them for more whistleblowers, more people to take action, people to start doing things about it, as opposed to just saying, this is what happened. It's more, this is what's happened, and here's what you need to do about
it. I think it would be better if we could try to convince the people like Google and YouTube to get YouTube swapped out of advertiser revenue and go straight YouTube Red. People that pay for YouTube Red go and see creators behind the paywall. Anybody that wants to put anything out for free is not behind the paywall. So you monetize your video, you're behind the paywall. That's just how it is. I think that would be a much better system, and it would lead to far less censorship.
I can't say that I agree with that. I don't see that as being a problem, because I think the problem stems from where these companies are and who their workforce is. I think that the advertiser model is 100% fine. The problem is that with the advertiser model, you have individuals in the company that are using that excuse to place their opinion upon what's worthy of advertisement revenue and what isn't. And that
is easier to, well, I would present this question. Who is easier to put pressure on? People who pay for the service or advertisers? Who is easier to make cop out? Because that is justification. I'm not saying you're wrong, because that is an issue. But the reason that issue is also so powerful is because they will flag this video, and if they don't flag it, they'll go to the advertisers, and then they'll flag it, and then they'll take it down.
So here's another argument the other way, though. If you only have a paid-for service, you basically get Netflix. Netflix is also woke as fuck and pushing nonsense.
$100 million advance to the Obamas for content they'll create.
Now again, you go back to the boycotting thing. They will not do something that loses revenue. So, if
they absolutely will. Dear White People was a 98% recommendation for me. At the time, I'd only watched a documentary on Auschwitz on YouTube, on Netflix.
I think the problem right there is that's something that they produced using the money that they made from people subscribing to watch other things. Which, if that's how they want to spend their money, fine.
Okay, so here's an argument for the advertiser angle for you using Netflix. Netflix doesn't have advertisers, so when they produce something like what was it that you mentioned, Jay?
Dear White People.
Dear White People. They produce something like that. They recommend it, they push it, they promote it, they do whatever. They have the analytics on who watched it, how many times, and whether or not it was successful in viewership. Okay?
Right, and I understand that you can
hang on, I'm not done yet. They have that information. Because it's self-produced, because it's in their house, they have no compunction to share that information with anybody. And they could tell you it was the most successful thing since sliced bread. But you can never be sure because they're only dealing with internal numbers.
Yeah, and they literally, instead of using like they got such bad reviews on that Amy Schumer special, they now made it harder for you to decide what you want to watch by taking away the stars and only giving thumbs ups and downs. That affects their recommendation system.
Right. So they have an interest in promoting their crap and making their crap falsely successful. Whereas if they have an advertiser model, the advertisers are going to be owed the ratings, because that's how you sell advertisement. Is you produce the ratings and you show it to the advertisers, and then the advertisers go, I'm going to advertise on Monday Night Football, even though it costs me an arm and a leg, and I am not going to advertise on the Lori Loughlin Lifetime murder movie mystery because nobody fucking watches that shit.
And again, as long as they have content coming in that is in fact successful, I know I can talk. As long as they have content coming in that is successful, they'll make money. When that dries up, whenever ABC, CBS, any independent companies stop selling shit to Netflix and they have to make their own shit to make a dime, and it's not good, and everybody drops their subscription, they're going to wise up and say, okay, this is obviously not selling. We need to make something that does. That's the power of the market.
This goes back to that boycotts don't work. They are never going to feel enough pain in that model to change their course of action.
Mm-hmm.
When the left went after Chick-fil-A stock went up, they became more successful. When the right went after Colin Kaepernick and Nike became more successful and started making more money.
I'm not talking about strictly boycotting, like getting groups of people to just en masse quit. I'm talking about people genuinely do not like it because it is poor quality. It's the reason that fucking Jack in the Box almost went out of business, because their sandwiches and shit were giving people salmonella. And then they fixed the problem, and now they're doing better. It's not a thing of boycott. It's a thing of put out a good product to make money.
But again, right. The thing is that people actually had financial input into a place like Jack in the Box, because they're like, I don't want to take the chance of getting sick. Jack in the Box food sucks. I'm not going to Jack in the Box. Jack in the Box, as an operating model, had to fix that. The problem with Netflix or with any of the social media companies is, number one, they don't have any fucking competition that you can choose to go to or spend your money at elsewhere otherwise, or the core business of Netflix isn't producing this nonsense and shoving it down our throats. Their core business is, hey, remember Friends from the 90s? You want to see that again? We've got all of them. All you got to do is pay us $15 a month, and you can watch all of them back to back, no commercials. Enjoy.
And again, that's capitalism. If that's what people want to watch, great. That's what they're paying for. I don't subscribe to Netflix because I don't particularly like many of their shows, and the movies that they carried, most of the time, are also carried on Amazon Prime. I also have Hulu because Hulu is up to date. It's not a season behind on every show or whatever. So, I mean, it comes down to what exactly do you want? You can go to the service and get that for that amount of money.
Yeah, but there's a difference between making a profit and being sustainable.
Right.
If you can be sustainable on your kids show, you can propaganda the adult channels all you want.
Yeah. Again, if nobody goes to watch the propaganda, it doesn't matter. If everybody just watches, if just for shits and giggles, Hulu picked up, not Stars, picked up HBO to get Game of Thrones. And they got all the HBO stuff as well. But everybody was watching Game of Thrones. So that's where they were making money. It doesn't matter what else they made. Nobody was really watching it.
Well, and that's my point, is it doesn't matter what else they made. It's kind of the same way with Netflix. Netflix is never going to feel enough pain to stop making nonsense because everybody's paying them so that they can watch reruns of Friends.
Yeah, so let them have their circle jerk in the corner. I don't give a shit. I want to watch Friends. What's wrong with that?
Well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, except if you want to change behavior. The paywall method isn't conducive to that. That's the problem. I mean, Crowder is going to make Crowder stuff. Right now, he's hot because Carlos Maza went after him. But
Right.
we all agree that after Jared left Crowder, quality went down, like a lot.
And that's why I let mine lapse. You said you let yours lapse as far as the subscription goes. So he's not getting my money anymore. I'll watch the free episode every now and again. It ain't often, but I do. And I mean, I'm seriously considering picking up a Daily Wire subscription instead, because I'd much rather listen to Ben Shapiro and Andrew Klavan every day. And that's just me.
I don't know. I'm almost there with Daily Wire. I don't care for Michael Knowles almost at all.
I don't either, but I'm not going to watch him, so whatever.
And Ben Shapiro, I can only take in small doses. Luckily, he's short.
I was just talking about this at the hangout, the meetup earlier today. I will listen to Shapiro until he either finds an instance of anti-Semitism, because that's all he's going to talk about for the entire fucking week, so I have to give him a break then. Or he starts talking about how the left doesn't police itself like the right does, which is basically, usually it's anti-Semitism. I think there's another instance, but I forget.
Well, and I like Andrew Klavan, but what I like about Andrew Klavan is on every day, Monday through Thursday, so I get it anyway, so I don't know that I need to pay extra. I just don't see I do too, but I'm getting real stingy with my money. And as far as paywall goes for pretty much anything, I don't like the idea.
I don't like ideas either.
I don't like it either, but that's the best way to figure out what people want to watch and to profit from it at the same time. To make
it's a direct profit.
Huh?
It's a direct profit, yes, but
yeah.
Okay, so
it's clearly sustainable because people want to see what's put out, and then you make money too.
I'm more apt to pay for something like Daily Wire, or at the time it was CRTV. I was happy that I got CRTV. I don't want to give Glenn Beck my money, even though I like Glenn Beck. He doesn't need my money. But Blaze TV the same way. The thing that gets me with like a lot of paywalls is that you're not going to get new stuff coming up behind. Like you do with Daily Wire a little bit, and you do with Blaze TV a little bit, even though Blaze TV went backwards in that they got rid of Gavin McInnes and they got rid of somebody else left. Michelle Malkin left.
Oh, did she? No,
it was either her or the other one, and I can't think of who it was.
It was Malkin.
It was Malkin, but then there was the other guy. Who was the British guy that they fired or let go? That was a couple of years ago. That was back in CRTV days.
Oh, that was. Oh no,
Mark
Stein. Mark Stein. Yeah, they didn't just let him go. There is still a lawsuit out there. He sued the pants off him. Mark Stein is one of those guys that he fills in for Rush Limbaugh like a lot. So he's got interesting things to say, but my God, he is the same equivalent of splattering shit. Don't let that guy anywhere near your production because he is just cancer.
Yeah, but like I said, whenever I had my CRTV subscription, I only watched maybe 2 or 3 of those shows religiously, which was Crowder, Roaming Millennial, and I don't even remember who the other one was. Maybe it was Gavin. And then I had to quit because I wasn't getting really getting my money's worth anymore.
Right. I watched some Gavin stuff, not a whole lot. I watched a lot of Crowder stuff, and then even then I was getting a little jaded by it because it wasn't really growing or going anywhere. Mm-hmm. I was kind of stoked when they announced they got Lauren, but that happened like a nanosecond before Beck came in and took over and kicked everybody out. But I hope she's doing well. I mean, I hope that works for her. There was somebody else there. I mean, I liked Michelle Malkin.
Yeah.
I didn't watch a whole lot of it, but the fact that I could get to it and watch it when I wanted to was nice.
Yeah, she didn't put out a whole lot though either. It's very because she does.
I hear that about the
investigative journalism.
Tease.
Because she did investigative journalism, she couldn't put out much. She had to investigate and come to a conclusion, write it up, and do a high quality production, and that takes time. So
Right. And
once a month maybe.
Right. Yeah, I'm okay with that. I mean, I like quality stuff, but I mean, with all of these people, there it takes a certain amount of ego to put yourself out there enough to start making these things to get the audience to do it. Like, I'm sure Steven Crowder is an egomaniac and control freak. I'm positive of it.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I have no doubt that those rumors and people that are bad mouthing him, I'm sure they're actually telling the truth about that. How that affects them and what that ended up being for them is a whole different matter. But he still puts out a decent product, a watchable, decent product. I hope that he takes this opportunity to make it better. But there for a while, he was very victim-centric, where he's like, I'm a victim of X, Y, or Z. Pity me. I'm producing this. I'm doing this. I'm working so hard. You need to give me money because I'm working so hard for you, yada, yada, yada. And I have exactly zero stomach for any of that nonsense.
Oh, back to the paywall thing, too. Another thought just occurred to me. Another benefit that could probably come out of doing it that way is that YouTube will actually push creators to create more stuff. They'll try to incentivize it somehow.
I don't want YouTube in. I do not want YouTube in a role that says, we're promoting you, we're pushing you, we want you to do X, we want you to do Y, we want you to do Z.
You have to do something specific. Just that we depend on you putting out content for us to have something to put out in order to make money.
Correct, so but they no longer do. They no longer do. They have the what they didn't have 10 years ago. They have now. What they didn't have 5 years ago. They have now. They have CBS. They have CNN. They have ABC. They have NBC. They have Turner Networks. They have all of this shit that are now coming to them saying, we recognize that all the eyes of the youth that we want are now on your platform because you were paying individuals to make stuff like Boogie, like Matt, like Crowder, like ContraPoints, like Christy Witters, all of these people, even shit people.
Well, then the other great thing about that too is if you're not beholden to advertisers, you can tell those guys go fucking pound sand. If they want you to push their not agenda, but the agenda, of course, but push their content, I guess. So at CBS, or not, is it who does SNL? Is it NBC?
NBC.
Yeah, NBC.
Okay, so NBC comes in, pays them, offers them $10 million to SNL on the recommended list at the top of the list. I mean, you can do that, but at the same time, you'll probably piss off a lot of people that are paying for the service and want something more legitimate in their recommended sidebar.
I think that they should have 3 tiers. They should have recommended, which is based on your viewing habits. We think you might like this.
Right.
And that's all algorithmic based on what you end up watching. If you watch produced, paid for content, that'll show up in the list. If you don't, it won't. If you watch individual creators, it shows up in the list. The topics that you watch will show up in the list. And it'll be basically unbiasedly curated for your watching habits. That makes sense. They should have promoted, which are the SNLs coming in and saying, hey, we want you to promote Saturday Night Live. We want you to promote Game of Thrones. Whatever it is that they put on there that they want to promote, that should be fine too. I don't begrudge YouTube taking money for that, to put that in front of people, but it needs to be on a separate list from the recommended. And then there needs to be a trending list. And the trending list just needs to be based off of what bulk users are watching. If that happens to be the promoted stuff, I'm okay with that. But for it to artificially be the promoted stuff is bullshit and shouldn't happen.
That's what I was about to say. They need to simplify it so much that it runs absolutely off of raw numbers and is unaffected by whatever they're promoting. Agreed?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there are simple fixes that can be put in place. But what it takes is a will to remove individual activism from these individuals at the company. And you have to remove that. You have to say, no, you cannot do it. No, it is not important. No, you must not. Because we are not servicing your political viewpoint. We are not servicing what you want serviced. We are servicing the general populace of people that may or may not agree with you, and it's okay if they don't. And what I would really like to see, if the government is going down these antitrust routes, which it seems like they are, they need to go in and say, you cannot have the bulk of your people in one geographic area along with your competitors and the same organizations. Instead of having everything run through San Francisco, San Jose, Saratoga, you need to expand out. And by expand out, I don't mean to LA and Austin. I mean to Kansas City, Dubuque, back of the knee, Tennessee. I don't know. Somewhere that isn't these huge metropolitan bubble areas.
Yeah, go to Coffeeville, Kansas.
Points. Hell, come to Phoenix. Phoenix is at least a big market that's got a diverse group of opinions. Yeah. And you will get pushed back against your leftist stupid agenda if you put headquarters here. Or at least an office that you put on par with the headquarters. As far as policy.
Well, that's what I kind of miss about old Google. I mean, what was that random place they decided to run Google Fiber at?
Kansas City.
It was Kansas City? Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that was.
That started, and from there it branched out, right?
I think so.
Is it still a thing? I don't even know.
It is. Yeah, it hits more cities, but they're going the Walmart route. They're picking, smallish to mid-sized cities to go in. Number one, because it's easier and cheaper. Usually, there's less physical area to cover, so it's easier to get the hardware in place in places like that. Like if you were to try to put it into LA, forget it. Hell, even if you were trying to put it into Phoenix, forget it. There's just too much area to cover. There may not be a whole lot of people, but it's 50 miles from one end of town to the other.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we get them to do these things? How do we affect this change?
Well,
I say we start at the beginning of Straight Pride Month.
Call them bigots for not accepting our homosexuality. I mean, our not heterosexuality.
And, well, Freudian slips and whatnot.
Yeah.
Good old Freudian slip. You know what that is, Garrick? Mm-hmm. When you say one thing but mean another.
I'm still on the boat of we need to get them to drop advertisers and go behind a paywall. Go full YouTube Red.
See, I think that I don't mind individual advertising, and this is the thing that I like Matt's point of view on it, where he doesn't want to be beholden to an advertiser. But on the other hand, I understand. I would be okay if he wants to have help getting revenue for what he does, is if he picks a couple of advertisers and rolls ads in the middle of his stuff.
Well, as we've seen, he's doing the promotions for those two companies, Sonoran Defense and what's the other one?
Phoenix, with an F, isn't it?
Yeah.
Phoenix Arms or something like that.
something or another. And I mean, he's not making any money from them, but he's still promoting them. And from what he's told me, they sell items from his with his coupon code or whatever it is. And I mean,
Jeez.
apparently it's doing very well. So he's, as much as he hates to do it, he does need to make a living off of this.
No,
But
I
it's not.
agree. And that's what I'm saying. I am okay. If he wants to do Birch Gold ads like Shapiro does, I'm okay with that too. That doesn't bug me in the slightest. As a matter of fact, because I like Matt's opinion and I know his moral, course of action, I am more likely to frequent a business that advertises on Matt's show than I am on somebody else's show.
And not only that, but because of his principles, he's not going to do it unless he absolutely has to. So, I mean,
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. But I do not need magazines, but I'm looking at Snorn Defense like, what can I get from you fucking people?
Yeah, they seem like a good bunch of guys.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like this place I just left. He's got a whole fucking warehouse full of suppressors that I could get him in touch with Matt and see if he can put out a coupon code or something and see if he can move some products. Move some inventory around and shit.
Possibility.
I mean, yeah, there's no reason to not. And I think that number one, well, not number one, but in addition to all of this, you can build. I mean, they keep saying, well, just build your own, build your own, build your own. Okay, we'll do that. I don't know.
Build your own.
But
Right.
as soon as you build your own, like you can't have that. You can't have, you can have the black graduation party. You can't have a white graduation party.
Watch me.
Well, no, that goes back to the straight pride parade that they want to have.
Yeah.
It's
You're
the
not
same
going to
thing.
have a straight
You
pride.
can't have a straight pride parade. Well, why not? Well, because it's racist or it's sexist.
Yeah. We
Well,
can
it's
exclude you.
discriminatory.
You can't exclude us.
Right. Well,
I'll
that's
give you a
just
great reason why we don't need a straight pride parade. Because the reason homosexuals need a gay pride parade is because they know it's shameful. That's why you have to, get this collective group of people
Good
to all
Lord.
be, commiserate in this debauchery.
That, sir, is bigoted.
Sure.
Save it for Mondays.
Yeah,
That's a
I guess we're getting into that territory, aren't we?
I mean, and Monday, I would love to talk about that too, because I'm literally.
Monday's episode is going to be like the men in tiny hats. That's going to be the title. So yeah, go with that if you want. It's going to be as bad as I can make it. Coming after you, Kevin Flanagan.
Come to think of it, since Matt's going to be on, this would be an absolutely excellent time to talk about that.
Yeah, the gay,
subject.
why do gay pride parades turn into such a display of degeneracy?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I have no problem with gays or lesbians or bis or whatever.
We all have a friend who's at least
Right.
gay.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, nobody cares. What we care about is, why do you got to throw that literally in our face?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's the same thing as somebody who uses drugs when you don't use drugs, trying to get you to sample the drug. At no point do they want to share their drugs with you, but they don't want to be judged by you for being such a piece of shit.
Yeah.
So they'll try to get you involved with it.
Mm-hmm.
And now they want your kids involved with it. And it's story times for trannies. And it's I'm a non-offending pedo who wants to have sex with children, but it's illegal right now. So I'm going to do everything in my power to make fucking kids less illegal.
Well, that's why it's such a reprehensible behavior to, not allow anyone to pick you up, but you instead pull them down to your level. It's despicable.
I agree.
And, yeah.
Okay, so let's take that as the state of affairs. Turn that around. They're going to have a straight pride parade.
Yeah, it's unnecessary.
No, I agree with you. But what's that going? What does that make the straight pride? What is it going to be?
It's going to be a bunch of really colorful floats with kids on them, because They have to bring their kids to a parade they're going to. It'll be Easter Sunday on a Saturday.
Thank you. It's going to be an Easter parade, which is something that used to happen.
You know what I know that's what it's probably going to be. You know what I think it actually should be? It should be the civil rights movement from the 70s, where everybody's dressed well dressed in a nice suit, walking down the street, and stating their problems.
No, it'll be
I know
just
that's not what it's
a
going to
fuck
be.
ton of munchkins marching in terrible orders with frantic women trying to herd them like cats into rows. While candy is thrown not to the crowd, but to the paraders, and it's going to get stopped like 16 times because someone's wearing something colorful and all the kids stop and you can't go forward anymore. It would be insanely, I hate to use the word, but it would be a problematic parade.
It's designed to be a problematic parade. Okay. You know who's going to show up? A bunch of militant gays and Antifa. They're going to show up to jeer and throw milkshakes. If we're lucky, it'll only be milkshakes on all of the people that are actually in this parade. That is what's really going to happen.
Now, the worst possible thing that could happen could also be the best possible thing. They actually hurt a kid in the process of this, and all the shit falls on them.
Yeah, fingers crossed. That's what I want to see.
That's not what I want to see, but if that happens, it could be turned for a good. I hate to say it, but it's true.
Dude, we just had a freaking Somali chuck a kid off a third floor. And
nobody did anything. It barely made the news.
It was almost labeled as like kid jumps to death by himself.
Nothing happened. A horrendous crime that should have ended in riots, at least in the town that this happened in, let alone the rest of the country. Nothing happened.
People don't take shit as personal as they need to.
Which is why, let me loop this right back into what the whole topic is. We need to make it personal.
Mm-hmm.
No longer hiding behind the anonymity of big corporations.
Like Little Elfie just happened last year, or possibly the beginning of this year. It's just, it all runs together.
If we believe in individualism, which we do, it needs to be applied. We cannot let them dictate their group collective nonsense and let it protect them. We have to hold individuals accountable, call them out, nail them.
Well, it's the reason there's only 2 white gangs in prison. It's the Aryan Brotherhood and Hell's Angels. Whites do not rally together the same way as other races do because they're not minorities. People don't see it as a tax. And
I'm trying to I'm threading this needle on a political scale more so than a racial scale. I mean, I see black Trump supporters getting as bad as any white Trump supporter. Sometimes worse.
Yeah, they're all the times, remember?
You know what I mean? Poor Ben Shapiro was the #1 target of anti-Semitic attacks in 2016.
Oh my God, what a fucking played out line. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, you know why I can repeat that so well? Because I've heard it ad nauseum for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
It doesn't make it any less true. It is 100% true.
That said, you don't need to say it every fucking episode.
Ben Shapiro, he radicalized me to the.
Yeah. He just set it in stone. You were already well on your way.
Oh,
I'm looking at this more of as an individualists versus collectivists sort of point of view. And you want to get down to brass tacks. Some of your associates there in the white pride movement, white nationalist movement are just as much collectivists as the assholes on the left.
Mm-hmm.
Well, even worse because they're nationalists. They want to close the border. It's hard to be collectivist when you got to close the border closed down. Because you only have what you have inside. You can't get nothing from the outside.
Bullshit, you can't.
Dude, there's a whole continent of white people.
We can get everything here, but that's beside the point. Just because you want to close the borders doesn't mean you want to close off immigration. You just want to be more finite with it. Like there's still videos out there of people standing, watching dozens of men run past them while claiming it's mostly women and children. Like, oh yeah, well then how come your women's and children's shelter needs men's shoes and coats? If it's a women and children's shelter, you need men's size shoes, men's size pants, and men's size coats.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, like literally, there's videos of these migrants who are the financial migrants who are coming because there's financial just disparity across the board, and they're filming the news with their iPhones. They're texting their friends that they're going to be on the news. That's not financial despair. For like a month, I work 37 hours a week. I don't work 40. But for like a 2-week period, I had a phone that couldn't receive or send calls. It's a phone. It's the only job. I live in America. These fucking guys are calling Ubuntu in Zimbabwe just to have a fucking chat. No, I just because you want to close the borders doesn't mean you want to stop immigration, first off. But are you against closing the borders?
Oh, I'm totally for putting up a wall, closing the borders, whatever we got to do to stop this
Because
immigration shit before we get. What we need to do is assimilate what we have already, and it's a fucking difficult process when you have, little what is it, little Iraq in Illinois? What's it called? Little Somalia.
Yeah, it's little Somalia or Minnesota, Mogadishu, where
that's not the problem. I like that. I don't have to go across the world to experience a different culture. That is fine with me, because there is a difference between first generation, second generation. I like first generation immigrants.
No, but
for the most part, yeah, they're here because they want to be. They're here because they wanted to change their situation.
Because America's the best country in the world, and I want to give my kids every opportunity, while your kids are going to be assholes who, for some reason, love that shithole you left.
That being said, I don't have a problem with them bringing their culture here, but the whole point of America is to keep the best parts of that culture and ditch the worst parts. When you have a little Mogadishu, that means you're getting the best and the worst. You're not assimilating to get only the best.
Do you know what every major city already has?
What's that?
Chinatown. Little Italy.
I know. Little Italy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
they all have
Little Italy or Chinatown or Chirac or whatever you want to in a dose. But I hit a kid on a bike once, a little Mexican kid. Well, I didn't hit him. He hit me. But I had to slam on my brakes. He hit my car. I called the police. I'm like, hey, this kid just ran into my car and he rode off. I don't know if he's okay, but I don't want to, find that there's a bolo for my car because I hit a kid. And the police went, and I'm like, I know he's like my neighbor. A little bastard's my neighbor. So they went to talk to him, and there was a 7-year-old. The cops had to talk through a 7-year-old to the parents. There was 3 adults there. I don't know how that works out, but 3 adults live in this place, 9 kids or whatever. But they had to use a translator, and they always have to use a translator through the kids because they don't speak it. And you don't know if the words are being translated properly because it's a 7-year-old that is doing the talking. But they need. You don't need to be 100% American and buy 7 guns and fucking praise the bald eagle every year. But learn the language, somewhat. But keep your culture.
Follow the laws.
We're a melting pot. We take the best there is, and then we get rid of the shit that doesn't help. Like, we didn't kill off the Indians per se, like, fuck all you Indians. But our culture, which was superior to their culture, in the fact that we were an agrarian society, we had these animals that lived with us. We got sick from these animals. The animals got sick from us. Everyone who didn't lived, and we had a much better life afterwards. That ended up killing off a lot of the Indians. Like, at some point, doctors started burying their patients at night instead of in the morning, and that caused less patients to die. That became a better culture for it. Because they learned about invisible germs. Like, hey, stop handling dead people in the morning, you'll bury less people the next morning. So we pick and choose the best of the culture because America is a melting pot, which made us the best country in the world. But now we've got all these idiots here who are attempting to Shanghai that in their own ways, and they're fucking with everything. And that is, in essence, a type of censorship. They're trying to keep our voices down so their voices can be heard. And it's on both sides. You don't want the blacks want to have their own thing. They don't want the whites to have their own thing. But at the same time, there's the hoteps who want to separate the blacks from the whites. While there's other groups that want to make them superior to the whites. And there's others who just want to separate them. So each group has their own flaws and foibles, but there's no way to lump every group as one whole when there's so many disparate factions.
I think I was probably the tail end of a group of school kids that got taught American values as opposed to globalist values.
I'm sure not long after I left school, they quit saying the Pledge of Allegiance every morning. Because I do remember doing that, and I can say that helps a lot.
See, I disagree. I think the pledge is the dumbest goddamn thing ever.
Really?
No. It's right up there with making your bed every morning. You don't make your bed so you come home to a nice bed. You make your bed so the first thing you do is accomplish something in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
When you all stand up forcefully because you don't want to do it because it's a little bit embarrassing and are forced to say the pledge, that unites everybody in that room under the same cause. I don't want to do this, but we have to do this. Let's get it done. It's a unifying thing.
It's indoctrination and it's bullshit.
What's wrong with
You can
indoctrination?
call it indoctrination. You're not wrong. But at the same time, the indoctrination it provides, I think, is unifying, and it gives us a core drive. And it makes
what
us
do
better.
you think that they teach? Because they always teach indoctrination. It's just what flavor of indoctrination are they teaching?
Exactly. You
By
gotta teach
saying
them one
what
that
you
is beneficial.
by saying what you both have just said, you no longer have the right to bitch about indoctrination as a problem itself. Because the pledge is
It's not indoctrination
indoctrination.
itself that is the problem. The problem is what is being indoctrinated.
Okay, I disagree with you 100%. Indoctrination is a problem. It doesn't matter if it's left or right. That's why I think the pledge is bullshit. If an adult, especially somebody in the armed forces, cares about the pledge and cares about the flag, I respect that. What I don't want is I don't want you making children say the words that they cannot comprehend that pledges their allegiance to a symbol that can be co-opted by literally anyone.
But that's just it. That's literally it. It's the pledge has been going on in its current form since like 1956 when they added God back into the pledge, and we still had the 70s.
I don't disagree with you. I do not like. I think most of our problems that we're seeing come manifest in the 20 teens stem from the 80s and the 90s and the kids in school. They were taught socialistic nonsense in school that has led to these stupid, cockamamie, anti-American beliefs as they become adults and start working for these tech companies. That indoctrination has led to where we are today and is the root of the problem. They go after the kids. They always go after the kids. That's why the pedophiles are going after the kids. The drag queens want to read at library story time in drag. Why do you need to be in drag to read a story to kids? Why can't you just read a story to kids? You have to tack your nonsense onto it because you're indoctrinating the children. The
I would
same
say that's indoctrination. Well, not entirely indoctrination. That's also a thinly veiled attempt to normalize it.
How is that any different than the Pledge of Allegiance?
I would say because of the ideas that are embodied in the Constitution, which is what you're really pledging allegiance to, not necessarily.
No, you're not. No, you're not, because I would be 100% okay with pledging allegiance to the Constitution of the United States of America, because it holds the ideals. It holds the blueprint for the best society. The flag is just a fucking symbol, and you're pledging your allegiance to the symbol, which can be co-opted by anybody for anything.
Okay, well, you got a point there. I think we should change it from the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag to the Pledge of Allegiance to the Constitution.
I would be more on board with that, because that, not only that, then you have to start teaching a comprehension of the Constitution. You pledge allegiance to the flag. Well, the flag means we're for gay rights. It's not an untrue statement, and it can even have positive effect, like the thing that just happened in, what was it, Botswana or Bolivia or wherever it is, that they just changed their rules because of pressure from the United States to be more accepting of homosexuals. I'm okay with that. If you believe all people are created equal, there's no reason to not do that. The problem is that eventually it degrades into the fucking gay pride parade where they're wagging their dicks in your face. That's a step too far. It leads to the drag queens reading storybooks to 5-year-olds in full drag. Unnecessary,
but I ultimately hang them. No,
which again, I mean, if that's what you want to do, I'm not necessarily opposed to. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. Why are you doing it at the public library? I guess they're part of the public. Okay, can't really argue that. Then I have to go back and say, are the parents who are dropping their children off to this 100% cognizant of what is going on?
Have you seen pictures? Have you seen pictures of
Some of the
parents and the kids? There's no dude there. The only dude there is dressed up in a dress with fake titties. These are single moms dropping off their kids for this. There's no dads there.
Right.
Once again, another problem that plagues our society.
Mm-hmm.
That's been identified for the better part of 30 years. It used to be you couldn't even talk about it. It used to be that said that the government broke up black families. It's specifically black families, and you were a goddamn pariah. But now it's pretty much just accepted general knowledge that, yeah, that's a true statement.
Okay, since I'm doing the dating thing, I'm going to bring up this thing of the reason I don't date single moms is because if I'm going to date a single mom with the intent of marrying her, that child is not my child. But in her eyes, I think that'll never be the case. I will never have say over how to raise that child.
Bro, I got news for you. Your own kid, you don't get to say.
I beg to differ. I will have some say.
As the father of a child, no, not really.
I was gonna say.
You have
I'm in the same boat. I won't date a single mother, but mine is I love kids. I absolutely 100% love kids. I've gotten married and I've gotten divorced, and
You had a kid in that marriage?
No, I didn't have a kid in that marriage. But my experience has 100% relationships I get into, they end. And at no fault would it be a child that we got, even if he was a little shit. I can threaten a little shit into behaving.
Yeah.
But at some point, I'm going to love that little bastard. It's not going to be mine. And when we separate, I'm still going to love that fucking little kid because they didn't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not brave enough to go through something like that where I lost this kid that I gave a bunch of love and affection to and helped raise for the amount of time that we were together. and can no longer be in his life because she's moved on to the next guy, and she only needs one guy paying child support, and saying what she's doing with her children isn't right.
Mm-hmm.
It's a risk.
Yeah.
Risk I'm not brave enough to take.
I took it. It worked out okay for me.
Well, I mean, you probably set up some rules or guidelines or something before you actually tied the knot, right?
The
You had a
difference
discussion about it.
Yes, and there's a difference. I dodged a lot of bullets when I was younger, and I wasn't ready for marriage until I was probably in my mid-30s, maybe early 30s, but more likely mid-30s. And by that time, I had enough experience under my belt and watching like almost everybody who got married in their 20s, their relationships failed. And their relationships failed because they weren't mature enough as people to make it work. So that by the time my wife and I got together, number one, we're the same age. She had gone through her marriage and divorce. I had gone through a long stint with a complete psychotic hose beast and learned a thing or two from the bad relationship. She learned a thing or two from the bad relationship. So that when we finally decided that we were going to have a quote unquote relationship, we said, it takes work. It takes work from both of us. We both have to be able to work on it, not only for ourselves, but because she was bringing kids into it, for them too.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, and we make it work. It's one of those things that we rely on each other, not just for love, companionship, and validation, but we are a unit in that we work together, helping each other and the kids to get along and be a family unit. Our focus isn't on ourselves. Our focus isn't
Right.
on our couplehood. Our focus is in our family.
Right.
We want to perpetuate our family and be successful as a family. So, I mean, and you have to be mature enough to get that. And most people in their 20s don't. I mean, they just don't. For whatever reason, extended adolescence for everybody, over the last century has done a lot of harm to the family unit, including levels of divorce.
I do think that spawned at least a portion of it spawns from the fact that we are in the most prosperous and peaceful time in the history of the world, for the most part, in this country.
Partially, yeah, because when
you don't have hardship, you don't learn discipline, and you don't learn the value of being.
Well, there's no common hardship to have to suffer through.
Right.
Yeah, no one was getting divorced in the 1920s.
Well, they were, but
not nearly the numbers that they are now.
Well, there was also social stigma against it. People were just fucking other people, and
no, I'm saying that we had the Great Depression.
Well, that
and
was
everyone was having a hardship.
Yeah,
at the same time,
you were more concerned about where you were going to find your food or your shelter or whatever. So you had a collective hardship that made people get along in a different fashion. Same for the wars. Same for World War I, World War II. There was common hardship that solidified the communities.
And especially if you're married to somebody who's the breadwinner and is actually bringing food home and putting it on the table, you don't split with the guy during hard times, because you don't know where your meal is going to come from next. You're better safe than sorry.
Mm-hmm. When my parents got divorced, my mom kept the house. My dad was like, "This is the house. You come home to this house, and I'll move out." And she was in college at the time, and she was working as well, and we had to go through latchkey and things like that. She was on food assistance from the government, and she got her degree, and she started working. She finally made enough that she was being able to take care of her family, as her and my dad was sending money as well. She went down to the office and it's like, "Thank you for all your help, food office. I no longer need your government cheese and powdered eggs," which is a shame because I love government powdered eggs.
Government cheese was pretty good.
Yeah, cans of grape juice, good God. But all that stuff was good. So, like, no bash on that when it used to happen. But the every month she would have to go down and wait in line, get the food stamps, and it was just kind of an ordeal, but she got them and we were able to eat. She went up to them, said, "Thank you for all your help. I no longer need it. You were a godsend in a time that I needed a helping hand, and thank you very much." The next month, they mailed her the checks. She no longer had to come in after it being a problem for us for 2 years. They just started sending them to her, and she had to return them in person after standing in line. All the bullshit. 3 months this happened before she's like, "I will fucking sue you if I get another food check coming from you assholes. That's not what this is about. You're trying to create dependency." So they eventually stopped, thankfully. But the government wants you in their pocket so that they can control you.
Well, yeah, that's like the transparent Democratic Party policy line is: we need you to need us.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I'm still a Republican, because they want to create wealth, which means you get more wealth. Yeah, the 1% gets the wealth, but they want everybody to have more wealth.
Yeah.
The Democrats want to keep you poor, while still giving the 1% the wealth because they're the one getting the donations.
Mm-hmm.
But only certain ones. It's like the Koch brothers. I mean, their turn, their flip flop here on policy and who needs to do what is, since Trump's become successful, they're pissed off and their actions show it.
Tell you what, good luck anybody going against Trump. He's at 52% approval rating.
What's funny is I hear different numbers every time somebody says this. Everybody's kind of agreeing that his numbers are up. Like, generally his approval ratings are up, but I hear, like, on the pro-Trump side, everybody's like, it's above 50%. It's like 52 to 55%. Other numbers I'm hearing are like 40, 42, 45. So it's hard to say what that means. I've always kind of just aggregated the two ranges and say he's about 48%. He might be 48 to 50%, which is enough, mind you, but it's not exactly like, I don't know, what are good presidential approval numbers? Does anybody hit the 60?
Got reelected at 42.
Right, but I mean, like, when Clinton, before the Lewinsky thing, were Clintons in the 60s? Were Reagans in the 60s in 83, 84?
Reagans were in the 60s in 84. And he won 40 states. So, Kennedy?
Yeah.
I'm not
What was he at when he got elected?
I wasn't even alive then. Sean?
Yeah, well, and oh, thank you. I think we're gonna have to go one down the road there and ask Stan. I have no idea.
Oh, Stan the man. He took Jesus' mom to prom, so he's got a backlog.
Dangerous Spaces might actually be older than Stan.
Is he?
Yeah, you tell us who killed Caesar, huh?
I think Dangerous Spaces might be a year or two older than Stan.
that's gonna be my entire Monday episode, is just bitching about that TV show Highlander, with all those really old people who happen to be like at every event that ever happened in history. Like, wait, you were just at Waterloo. How do you know about what was happening in North America at the time? Like, how fast are those steamboats? What the shit?
Oh, on Monday, remind me. I want to talk about this Lauren Southern thing because I really don't know a whole lot about it, but from what little I've heard, everybody's shitting on her.
It's crap. They're shit on everybody right now, because the people who were fans of Lauren Southern are now shitting on Faith Goldie, saying that she gangbanged Richard Spencer and a bunch of white nationalists at Charlottesville, even though I literally watched a live stream that Richard Spencer was at, and I watched the live stream that Faith Coldy was doing about the James Field attack. They weren't even at the same place. So it didn't happen the day they're saying it happened, at minimum.
Well, and it's the whole Warren Southern thing is shitty people doing shitty things eventually gets sunlight and shit splatters, and that's kind of what's happened.
Yeah, but this all came from
Wasn't the
Milo's.
thing that Blair White was talking about, that she's an actress or something like that, kind of like a Cortez, I guess.
Who's an actress?
Lauren Southern. This is something that Blair White was putting out on her Snapchat, that nothing she ever said was her own opinion. It was all scripted or something or another. And she thinks that getting into politics has ruined her life, which is why she's retiring.
I wouldn't put that past her, because her literal first claim to fame was she went with her dad to a Republican meeting, and cameras were there, and they put forth a cute blonde girl to talk. So that could have been the start of it, because those weren't her talking points. You could clearly tell that.
Well, and what was she? She was what, 19 at the time?
No,
Okay,
she didn't that, because she didn't. The 19 stuff was Rebel, like 2 years later.
Yeah, but for this to continue on for as long as it has, you really think that's the case?
No, because she wouldn't be doing I changed my sex to own the transgenders thing. That's
Not only
something.
that, she wouldn't have taken on her own content to like do Borderless and what was that? Farmers? What was it? South African Farmers?
Yeah, well, some of that stuff, like, all right, so basically Tim Pool had a Swedish vacation with his girlfriend on Alex Jones's dime. Same thing as Borderless, same thing as Africa. You get to travel and do new things as long as you put forth a couple hours of filming in that time. You can go wherever the fuck you want on an expense account. So as long as you're paying the bills while you're there, you get to travel all over the world. So that kind of content, meh.
Well, it doesn't negate
money runs dry.
that doesn't negate the quality of the product though either. You know what I mean? It doesn't necessarily have a correlation. It can, but not always. I mean, yeah, you could have a Swedish vacation. Tim Pool could have a Swedish vacation. He still produced stuff that was worth watching. Same with Borderless. I mean, I don't know what the expense accounts for that look like, but she still put together a quality documentary that is worth watching. You know what I mean? It's kind of the same thing.
I didn't watch it.
I haven't watched it, but everybody who has done a little bit of promotion for it. Even people that don't like her were like, it's a pretty good documentary. It's worth watching. You know, begrudging at, not necessarily support, but at least acknowledgement that it's not bad. And that's usually enough for me to go, okay, well, at some point it'll be in my queue and I'll watch it and it'll probably be all right. That's neither here nor there. But I think, the reason she's retired is she realized the shit with the producers was going to blow up because they're a bunch of Twinkie cunts and shit splatters. And that seems to be what has happened with Lauren Southern. It's not so much about Lauren Southern other than she's the biggest name associated to these two twinks that have literally shat their own bed.
Yeah. Okay, so it's more about the guys than her per se.
The story is about that, yes. And she's a part of the story, but the gossipy, snitty story is more about them than it is about her. And the only acquiescence to the storyline is that Lauren Southern says she is retired from public life, which again, who cares? So what? That just means that she's not going to be a target on the board anymore. Oh no!
Didn't she get married?
There's speculation.
Was it a black dude?
There's speculation.
Not if Faith Goldie has anything to say about it.
No, Faith Goldie remarried too, didn't she? And she married up. She's married to what, a prince or something?
Oh, I have no idea. All I know is she lost her bid for mayor.
Yeah. Yeah, she might have married a lord. Who knows?
I don't care.
Yeah.
I do now.
Well, let us know. What do you find?
But we've been going at this for about 100 minutes, so...
Yeah, this is even better than a Monday show. What the hell?
Well, I was angry when we started. I've just...
Better than Monday show. What the
Bottle
hell?
up and bottle it up right now and reopen it for Monday.
Well, if we're going to have a Tiny Hats episode, I don't know how much I can contribute to that. But
Yeah.
Well, we need one detractor.
Well, don't forget, we need to explain all this to Josh and see what he has to say about it.
Well, he had his opportunity. He could have been here, but instead
Yeah.
he thought it was more important to be fat. So
He's still eating a pasta bowl.
Yeah. He's just a big red-haired furball at this point.
what was the name of the thing from Labyrinth? Mungo? Was that it?
Mongo.
Blazing Saddles?
Smell bad. Yeah, that one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was mine. Ludo.
Call the Rocks, Ludo. Yeah, that one. Mongo was from Blazing Saddles.
Yeah.
I saw somebody threatened, like, I better have 500 friends at the end of this or else. And I'm like, man, I don't think this gift's going to be in here, but I'm going to look for it anyway. Sheriff threatening to cap the black guy.
All right, so whose channel is this going to be on? I'm going to share it with the group.
This is on my channel.
And it's already shared with the group.
Yeah, and then it'll be up on BitChute at some point. I have yet to figure out how often BitChute goes out and grabs stuff. So,
I don't even know how to link it.
yeah, I haven't figured that stuff out either.
Yeah, Jay, you might want to start linking it.
I don't know.
Oh, you mean how to link BitChute?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a setting in your channel on BitChute where you could say associate with this YouTube channel, and you put in your YouTube channel, and it goes and grabs stuff.
Yeah, I bet you doesn't have that for me.
It does. It's just not easy to find. Once we're off air, I'll see if I can find the instruction set and send it over to you.
All right.
All right. Well, anybody else got anything to add to this nonsensical Saturday stream?
Nope.
Buy more suppressors before they're banned.
Yeah, we'll look out for that can ban. Oh, I just typed BitChute into the Google search engine, and one of the first thing it said BitChute, and then underneath it said Soph. And I'm like, oh, someone's really advertising that.
I need to add Soph to my BitChute.
Yeah.
All right, I'm pushing the button.
All right.
All right.
Where is
Goodbye, everybody.
the button?